Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. Today is a very special day, and there are some special things happening in this episode. But 3 things you are going to learn are: number 1, why spirituality is part of successful business. Number 2, what entrepreneurs typically get wrong. And 3, what the most transformative emotion that drives change is. Jessica Zweig has been described as a voice of her time by Marianne Williamson and a personal branding expert by Forbes. A serial entrepreneur, Jessica founded 3 businesses and recently sold her agency, SimplyBe, the nation's premier branding company. Her first book was the #1 bestseller, Be, a No Bullshit Guide to Increasing Your Self-Worth and Your Net Worth by Simply Being Yourself. And her best-selling recent release, which I have right here, The Light Work, Reclaim Your Feminine Power, Live Your Cosmic Truth, Illuminate the World, is out now. Jess is the host of the top-ranked podcast, The Spiritual Hustler, which is fantastic. And she's a highly sought-after speaker for companies like Google, Mindvalley, Create and Cultivate, and Nike. And she is a leader of a global community of spiritual women and hosts sold-out retreats on businesses, on branding and spirituality across the world. I could go on and on. Guys, welcome, Jessica Zweig.
Oh my God, Lyndsay,
Girl.
I can't even tell you how excited I am to be with you. I freaking love you. I saw you across the room. I'm like, she's my girl. She's my people.
Well, I'm bringing the light from my favorite light worker today, and I could not be more excited to have you here. So I start the show the same every time. And for those that don't know you, could you share a little bit about your story?
Yeah. Well, you just gave my highlight reel. So let's talk about what's behind that highlight reel. You know, I listen to always back to my bio, and I'm always like, wow, I guess I did do all of that. And that is what I do. So I identify more as just a spiritual being on this planet having a human experience. I have been through a lot of dark nights of the soul, as I think every person here has. My greatest tests and lessons have come through being an entrepreneur, really being, someone that was never cool when she was in high school and middle school and didn't really have a lot of boys who liked her. I was kind of a gawky, awkward kid, and then came up in the theater department and found my people with all the other suburban misfits, as I like to say, and then graduated college with an acting degree. And I say this in my book. I'm like, I only really knew how to do 2 things well when I graduated college, which was wait tables and be dramatic, and like figured out entrepreneurship on the job. I stumbled into this space of starting my own business at 26, built a business, from the ground up with a girl I barely knew. It was a critical success, a financial failure. We somehow made it 7 years, cut my teeth on marketing and branding, but really sucked at running a business and found myself in a bunch of credit card debt by the end of that journey, and really had a full-on crisis because I was financially destitute. I was emotionally surrounded in toxicity. I had contracted an autoimmune disorder and somehow got enough gall to start another business, a couple of years later after I had taken a job in corporate America to pay off my debt, lick my wounds. And that was really the beginning of my spiritual awakening and my personal growth and development journey. And so I took all of those lessons that I learned in business #1, the failure, and applied them to business #2, my agency, and the business took off. I mean, I scaled it to a 7-figure business in a year, became a multi-7-figure business a few years later. That was the business I would eventually sell. But in that business, I got super hooked and addicted to success and the hustle, the toxic hustle, as I like to say, and found myself on my knees in 2022 with burnout and diagnosed depression. Like not burnout, like hashtag Instagram burnout, but real physical, mental, emotional depletion, and couldn't leave my house for a few months at the top of my career. This was the pinnacle of my success at that agency. And the whole world was really admonishing me for how much I was winning, but inside I felt like I was dying. And that sent me in an even deeper spiritual journey. And so I really believe, and then, here I am on the other side of all of that
Mhm.
after a very pivotal trip I took to Egypt, which I write about in my new book, and am really stepped out of the spiritual closet, if you want to say,
Yeah.
helping women, primarily high performing female entrepreneurs as their coach through my masterminds and certification programs and retreats, really teaching women how to do business differently. Because at this point, I've learned enough about business to know
Yeah.
I'm good at business. Like I love business. I get it. I have built culture, teams, client success, tons of impact brands, thousands of brands, including my own, my company brand, my personal brand. Sold a business. I have enough to make me dangerous as a business coach, but I'm not really here just to teach women how to do that
Yeah.
because we miss the memo if we just focus on that as women
Yeah.
because we're not designed, frankly, to build businesses in the way that we've been taught in this patriarchal paradigm. And so, all of that to say, I never was born anointed with success. I had to learn a lot of hard knock truths along the way. And my biggest mission and intention with my work is to make sure that no other woman feels like she's alone,
Yeah.
and I get to dedicate every day to doing that today. So that's the little highlight hustle reel behind the highlight
Yeah.
reel about
I
me.
love your hustle reel. And I think I'd love to back up just a smidge because for the people that are maybe unfamiliar with why business and spirituality actually go together, I'd love to kind of break it down for
Yeah.
like the beginners
Yeah.
who are maybe intrigued, maybe a little concerned, maybe a little suspect, maybe they're like, are they going to talk religion here? We're not talking religion, guys. But
Yeah.
why is the spiritual side even important to business? I mean, I
Yeah.
understand it because I
Yeah.
understand you have to rely on your instincts, you have to rely on your gut, you have to surround yourself with people that are going to check you and lift you up and cheer you on. But I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely not talking about religion at all. Like I don't even really use the word God when I talk about spirituality. Like throw all of that out the window. That's got a lot of layers to it, and I'm not an
Yes.
expert on that, and that's not what I'm my message. I do believe that we're all here, however, connected to a higher power,
Yeah.
that we're here not by accident, that we've all been given our unique gifts, our unique DNA. That's science. There's only one you in the planet.
Yeah.
We're here to ultimately make this world a better place. I don't think you have to be a spiritual religious person to look
No.
around and say, what's happening here? It's a dark and heavy time. And I do believe that most people are good and want their families to thrive and want their communities to thrive and want their teams to thrive. And as a leader, you're responsible for making the world a better place because we all touch people. We don't have to be Oprah to change the world. We all have our own corners of the world that
Yeah.
we touch. And you know what I will say, Lyndsay, when I started Simply Be, which was at the rock bottom in a way. Like I was really shot. My confidence, I was still crawling my way out of credit card debt. I had a toxic business partner that was still haunting me. Like there was a lot of chips stacked against me to go out and try it again. And I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a website. I didn't have a single client when I started Simply Be. But what I had was a purpose.
Yeah.
I had a really clear purpose that I was going to help people, that
Yeah.
I was going to help people with their personal brands, which, in my view, when you know your brand, you know your worth and you know how to articulate your worth to the world.
Okay.
And that is a superpower. And I could help people turn that on. And that was what my agency was dedicated to. And I was so clear on that.
Hmm.
And I got sharper and I built a great team and I got my product marketing suite down and I got my strategy right. Of course, those things had to happen if I
Yeah.
were to ultimately scale and sell that business. But my purpose never changed. It never
Mhm.
wavered. And I feel like when we're connected to that fire inside of our souls, none of that stuff actually really matters because
Yeah.
people will feel you and the market will respond to you and the talent will want to work for that. And your clients will feel that sincerity in their hearts and in their bodies when they're interacting with you.
Yeah.
And so I think that Call it spirituality, call it purpose, call it vision, call it a mission,
Yeah.
call it an intention, just to be embodied in a bigger why than just revenue. I feel like they have to go hand in hand.
Well, I think what you're talking about, and I talk about this a lot with clients that I coach and, people, job seekers who are trying to figure out, what should I be doing? And, my story, when I lost my job, I was fired. And after a month of sitting in a puddle and feeling really, really terrible, I asked myself three questions. And it was, what am I really good at? What do I love to do? And how can I help people the most? And when you're coming from that space, you can say no to stuff that does not align really
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
And people understand your brand so much more quickly when it is aligned with your purpose. And companies who lose their focus and have stepped away or cleaved from their original purpose, it's because they got focused on the wrong stuff. And
Yeah.
whenever you can get back to your why, it's always going to make you better at what you're doing, and it's going to make people want to buy from you.
Absolutely.
So I love that you said that. Um, so can we talk about the book a little bit?
I mean,
Because
please.
okay, so, and we're going to do something a little unusual at the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. Hey, there it is. So I'm going to do a giveaway today, guys. So if you love the show, and we have a lot of people that do, and you have not yet gone and given a review out on Spotify or Apple, then now's your chance, because the first two people that do that won't just get the light work. They're going to get my second book, Voices of Women. I'm going to mail you these two books. So two people go give reviews, send me proof, and they are yours. Just have to be in the US. So I want you guys to have this book. It is beautiful. And I sit in awe of Jess because A, she's my friend, but B, like the stuff that pours out of her is incredible. And if you have not listened to The Spiritual Hustler, oh my gosh, what a treat. And go listen to the 2 episodes about Egypt, because that will like really enlighten you to what this is all about. But Jess, talk about the book. Why
Mm.
did you write it? And what would you, who would you recommend it for?
Mm. Gosh, I wrote this book because I had to. This book poured out of me in 3 months, Lyndsay, and that's not
It's crazy.
normal.
No, it's not normal.
I didn't hire a ghostwriter. I didn't use ChatGPT. I wrote every single word of this book, and it just came through me from a higher source. So after my first book, B, which was a massive success, I knew I was going to write another book. I love writing books. I love being an author. I'm a writer at heart. And I knew I wanted the word light to be in the title. I just had this really high level idea that I was going to talk about light in my own way. And then I hit burnout and I had to put the book proposal on the shelf for quite some time as I healed. And I was toying with, where to take the book. It was starting to come back into my mind. And then I had serendipitously planned a trip to Egypt at the end of 22, which was the most life-changing experience of my life. I planned that trip a year before. It was a 15-day spiritual pilgrimage. I had no idea where I was going to be by the time I stepped onto that plane in Cairo. Like when you plan a big trip like that, you can't book it out a month out. You got to book it out months
Oh,
and months
yeah.
in advance. You're taking more than a half a month off of work. And so I got to this country as that boss babe, bright yellow suit, Jessica Zweig, CEO of SimplyBe, but like cashed, wanting to burn my whole business down. Frankly,
Yeah.
that's how much I was over it. And I get on this plane and I immerse myself in a 15-day spiritual pilgrimage going from temple to temple to temple. I would love your listeners to go read the book because I talk about that experience in great detail. But I died in Egypt.
Mm,
I say that I died. That girl, that avatar, that identity, that ego, I left her there and I came home new.
yeah.
And I was in the midst of negotiating with my agent, like a potential new book deal. And I needed to reshape the proposal. And I just knew that I needed to tell not my story, but me as the mirror of what I know so many women face,
Yeah.
which is not only darkness in her career, but really darkness in every area of her life, really, when it comes to friendships with other women, from relationships with romantic partners to our relationship to money, to our body images, to our personal power, to how we find mentorship as we grow in our lives and careers. And I just decided, it wasn't even I decided, my higher self decided, like, I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to get really naked, tell my true, most shameful, dark stories, like all my dark shit that I've never shared publicly, so that other women can see themselves in my story, so that they remember who they really are. Because that's what had happened to me in Egypt. I remembered who I really was. And who I really was and am, and who we all are, is innately designed to enjoy our lives,
Yeah.
to enjoy this human experience. Like, joy is the point, joy is our birthright. The whole time I was in Egypt, all of these goddesses, Isis, Sekhmet, Hathor, they were like, girl, you've missed the whole fucking memo of your human experience. You've been climbing the ladder of
For what?
success.
For what?
For what?
Yeah.
For what if you were miserable the whole time? And I call it a spiritual empowerment book for the high performing,
Mm.
hyper vigilant,
Mm.
most likely high perfectionist leaning woman who has been conditioned to believe that in order to win, to shine, to take up space, to feel good in her skin, to feel safe in her body, to thrive financially, to fall in love with herself over and over, that we have to somehow pay for it or
Yeah.
sacrifice for it.
It's not
And
supposed to be easy.
it's
Yeah.
not supposed to be easy.
Mm.
And I'm like, no, we're done with that story. That's not ours. That's a construct and a paradigm and a
Yeah.
programming that has been placed upon us by our ancestral DNA and lineage, as much as the patriarchal paradigm that we've all been swimming in, calling it normal in reality, when this was a really, truly a world that was written 4,000 years ago that has evolved now to modern society by men for men. And
Mm.
I'm not here to shit on men. I love men. We need
Yeah.
men. We need both the equal divine masculine and divine feminine in
Yes.
harmony. But we've overvalued the masculine, and we've overvalued the masculine within ourselves in order to be strong, tough.
100%.
Like, to show up as a leader, we have to be hard.
Well, our examples of leadership have predominantly been male. I mean, look at the world leaders, look at business. I mean, I was the only woman on many, many sales teams for years.
Right.
And I thought that crappy sports analogies was like the way to lead, and
Right.
fear and
Fear.
intimidation was like normal. And
Right.
it wasn't until I had a few different female leaders who were like, so how do you want to run the business? And I'm like, what? Me? You want to know? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
And once I was exposed to, and not all of my male bosses were bad. I had great ones, but the real differentiators were coming from the women, and
Yeah.
with really simple things like, girl, I've got your back. Now
Yeah.
fly. Like
Yeah.
when a manager, a leader says that to you, that puts so much wind in your sails.
Yeah,
And
it
I
does.
think we're in this shift, we're in this world, and I'd love to hear your perspective. We're in this kind of moment where women are finding their voice, we're finding
Yes.
community, we're finding solidarity, and we're not taking shit. And I really am enjoying it. And I'm enjoying that I have a daughter and a son who are getting to see this.
Yes. I mean, it's our time. It's actually always been the way. I think it's such an exciting time to be alive, let
Yeah.
alone to be alive as a woman today. We
Yeah.
are rising in seats of leadership. We are starting new businesses at record scale.
Yeah.
We are stepping into seats of leadership and authority. But here's the thing, Lyndsay, and this is what I learned, coming back from Egypt. So I had a really significant experience in one of the temples there,
Yeah.
and it was the Temple of Dendera, who is it's the goddess of Hathor's temple, and Hathor is the goddess of bliss. She's one of the most galactic, sacred, most powerful goddesses of the earth, but she has a dedicated temple in Egypt. The things that happen to you in Egypt, I often say, sound really crazy. Like, you go and recount them, and people look at you like you must have been on mushrooms or like something that couldn't have happened to you. These things happen to you.
Yeah.
They just do. And I was standing in one of her chambers by myself. pressed my whole body up against her wall, and I got struck by what could only be described as a white lightning rod,
Mm-hmm.
and my whole auric field expanded. I dissolved. It was the most ethereal, cosmic experience of my life. And in that moment, I started hearing voices, voices of the goddess speaking to me in rapid succession. And they said to me many things I will never forget. I wrote them all down. They're in my book. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the most significant things they said to me was that the feminine frequency is returning.
Mm.
And you, Jessica, are a leader of that, but you are only one woman. All women are leaders of this. And the key word there is returning.
Yeah.
They didn't say the feminine frequency is being birthed. They said the feminine frequency is returning. So
Mm.
this set me down a really deep path when I was writing the light work of researching what that meant. I've dedicated the last 2 years of my life unpacking that moment, frankly.
Yeah.
And I learned through my studies, I can't believe it took me almost 42 years to learn this, that for hundreds of thousands of years, since the dawn of humanity on this planet, before the 4,000 years of the patriarchy, was simply when things just started getting recorded. Before that, we lived in a matriarchal system.
Mm.
Women led this planet. We were the original designers and innovators behind everything: pottery, textiles, farming, astronomy, writing, creative arts, domestication of animals, language. Like, it is history. We created in tandem with men, but we were the top of the tribe. We could, because we were so connected to the mother
Yeah.
nature, we could read the sky, we could feel the seasons. We were the ones telling the men, okay, it's time to go hunt. And we were revered, and
Mm-hmm.
we revered each other. And then as the patriarchy formed, not to wax super historical, the the women, we had less space at the top. I'm cliffs noting it here, and we became competitive with one another. And now we're living in 2024. To your point, I love being a woman. It's so exciting. What I think is really happening is that these codes of consciousness that have been deeply embedded inside of our systems, our DNA, are coming online again. We're remembering. We're reconnecting that truth, whether we are conscious of it or not.
Yeah.
Look around. Like, women are rising. And this is how it's always meant to be. That's why they said the feminine frequency is returning. And it
Mm-hmm.
is your job, Jessica, along with all women here, to be a leader of this moment, of this movement, and to hold this responsibility sacred,
Yeah.
and to truly make no apologies for the space we take up,
No,
because we do it differently as women. We just do.
we do.
And I think about, you mentioned world leaders and, government and big corporate capitalism and pharmaceutical companies and food companies and sports teams and religious institute. If women were at the top of all of that, it would just be a different world.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it'd be a perfect world. It would just be
No.
different. And so that's what I'm here for. And I feel the more I talk about this stuff pretty openly and unapologetically, the more women like light up and their ears perk up and open. And there's a hunger for this remembrance. Even if we can't articulate what's happening inside of us, we know this to be true. And so I'm here to say, let's go. Let's
So this is
freaking
the
go.
perfect segue to what is the most transformative
Mm.
emotion? Because you talk about it in the book and you talked about it in the community. And I want people to really hear this because I think there's a misconception, just like we said earlier, it's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be fun. I really don't agree with that. Of course, business can be difficult and challenging and hard, and it's a lot of work. But what is the magic emotion?
Mm. Joy.
Joy.
Joy. I mean, we think that it's indulgent or a privilege or luxury to have space for that and to prioritize that and to actually make that your job and not your quarterly planning meeting.
Yeah.
I did not have joy in my life for probably 2 years straight. Like I said, I was at the peak of my success. Everyone was like reflecting back to me, God, you're winning, you're crushing.
Yeah.
And I hated going to the office. I hated so much of my life. And Here's the thing about joy, and joy is different than happiness. Happiness is a fleeting emotion. Joy is a conscious choice.
Mm,
Joy is a commitment to yourself. It is a daily devotion to yourself. And it doesn't have to be grandiose, like going across the world on a yacht. You can take a walk in nature and feel joy. You can sit at your altar and journal and feel joy. You can sit in your bed and stare at the wall and practice boredom and find joy in that. I made joy my holiest practice. And here's the thing about the frequency of joy, it comes from our hearts. And our heart is the biggest electromagnetic force field of the human body. It's 3,000 times stronger than our brain. It emits energy 4 feet outside of our physical vessel. And so when we get into a frequency of joy, the operative word is
yeah,
electromagnetic. We become magnets. We become magnetic to that which is of the same frequency.
yeah,
And I call that alignment. We get into alignment with our truest and highest selves that wants us to be joyful, that
yeah,
knows that that's our birthright. And what do magnets do? Well, they attract. They don't pull, they don't hustle, they don't grip, they allow. It comes to them. And when we step into the frequency of joy, which is a practice, which shifts our vibration,
yeah.
we then flow through our lives and things align faster, more effortlessly that are meant for us. And we don't have to hustle that hard.
Mhm.
It's like reverse engineering everything we've been taught to believe. And it's not just a physical sensation. We have to really use our minds. It's the power of thought. I talk about this in our book. Thought is, thought creates. We can create and co-create our own realities with the power of our minds. The key is, however, is to bring it into the body and
Mhm.
truly, genuinely feel it and access those emotions. And in my view and experience, there's no more magnetic emotion than joy.
I totally agree. And I know when I am in my zone, when I am feeling my best, people come. They get attached, they want more, they want to know, like, what am I doing that's
Yes.
making me feel this way? And I love to share that. I love to invite people into that space and to lift others up and to create these moments for people where they just are like, God, that felt good. I love talking to her.
Right.
And they want to come back for more. And that's not me being like sneaky and strategic. That's just me just living the way I want to live and
Yeah.
putting my heart out there. So I love
Yeah.
that. So what's your advice for entrepreneurs? What are they getting wrong? What should
Mm,
they tune in more to,
mm, mm,
and maybe stop doing?
mm. Themselves. Tune in more to themselves. You know, Here's one of the things that I often refer to, and I get asked this, and it was my lesson to learn too, and I write about this as well in my book. So for the 7 years that I was scaling my agency, the first 5 years, it looked like this. Like if you're not watching and
Yeah,
listening, it was like
uphill.
an upward straight ascending line, like a hockey stick.
Hmm.
And then one year it started to do this. It flattened, right?
Plateau. Yep.
And then it dipped a little. And I lost my shit. It was that was 22, right? Like all of a sudden there was something intrinsically wrong with me.
Yeah. You're a failure. Yep.
Mhm. And I went to my astrologer and I was on her couch, like freaking out, having a meltdown. And she said something to me on that couch that I never forgot. I wrote about it in my book and I talk about it and I think about it all the time, which is for us to believe that our lives, our businesses, I'm speaking to the entrepreneurs out there, should always be looking like forgetting like upward, just in straight lines, like Q1 to 2, 3, 4, like H1 versus H2,
Yep.
like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Like we live in this linear construct. And if all things are nature, because they are, we're all connected to the great Mother Earth. I call her Gaia. This isn't woo, this is actual science. Everything operates in cycles and rhythms. It looks like a circle with death, rebirth, spring, summer,
Yeah.
autumn, fall, seasons. And to just allow yourself the grace to have the dips,
Yeah.
to really put the pressure off of yourself, to stop looking outside of yourself at every other person you see on LinkedIn or Instagram who's raised the money or who's sold the business or who has the engagement or crushing it on the keynote stage. Like your job is you, your gifts of service to the world. And in fact, the more you dip, the more you're going to learn and the more you're going to have to give to the
You learn
world.
way more from failure than you do from success.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so that was one big, I mean, and listen, Lyndsay, I freaking love to make money. I love to win. I love when I stick the landing and crush a launch and, sell a bunch of books, get a bunch of people to sign up for my program, make a bunch of revenue for the month of
Yeah.
October, whatever. But if I don't, there is no reflection on my power in that moment. It is just the nature of things.
Mhm.
And when I unhooked from that gripping of needing my career to look like it was always climbing, like for who? What am I trying to prove? Like we have nothing to prove to anybody. You have nothing to prove to anybody. And the last thing I will say on this note is the more you do this work on yourself, the more you will grow professionally and financially. Your business as an entrepreneur will only grow to the extent of which you grow as a person
Yeah.
because you're going to have to learn how to be a better communicator, a better negotiator, a better manager, a better leader. That is personal development school on steroids, being an entrepreneur. And so if you're willing to commit and look within and hold the big freaking sparkly mirror up to your face on a daily basis and take responsibility for your side and whatever it is you're freaking out about, that is the unlock to truly being unstoppable, actually, and personal power. And so that's my advice to entrepreneurs. Like
Good.
it's all about you look at yourself in the mirror every day. You hit that head on your own pillow every night. Nobody else. You got nothing to prove.
Yeah, love that. So shifting gears, what inspires you?
What inspires me? I love to read a lot of books. I'm into super weird books like spiritual goddess books and read all about the matriarchy all the time. It's my favorite topic. Um, I'm building a house right now in the
Yes,
woods
I
of
know.
Nashville, Tennessee, and I am looking at a lot of interior designs and
Oh,
textiles and
heaven.
stone and curtains and fabrics and lighting. I love getting into that world. It's a whole new language for me.
Oh, girl,
Any
we can talk.
yeah, at any time I'm like immersed in things that activate my neuroplasticity and turn my brain on in ways they haven't been turned on before, it inspires me. Solitude inspires me. I love to be with myself. I pretend to be an extrovert on TV, I like to say, slash Instagram, LinkedIn. I love being alone. I'm a Cancer moon. I need my emo music and bath and darkness and candles and like don't talk to me for days kind of energy. And in that kind of space, I get a lot of creative ideas. And my husband inspires me. My family inspires me. I'm always rooted back into what really matters,
Mm,
by spending time with the people I love the most. And, right now the world, I wouldn't say it inspires me as much as it fascinates me. Like
yeah.
there's a lot of crazy things happening at this current juncture in humanity. And I posted a meme the other day on Instagram and it said like my toxic trait is that I'm actually an alien, really confused by this human experience because I am. And I try to be an observer. Um, I not to say that I'm bypassing, but I look at things without an emotional charge and just find it to, and it's very freeing to do
Yeah.
that when you take yourself out of it and just can
Observe.
witness,
Hmm.
right, what is happening that doesn't feel good and how you can do something else and something different about it. That really inspires me.
Amazing. Um, what would you like your legacy to be?
Well, I really want people to be impacted by my work. I want to write many books. I'm not done. I think I have like 7 books in me. I'm going to write till I'm like in my 60s. Like I want to have a collection of work
Not
in
at
me.
not at 90 days, my friend. You'll
No,
have them
no,
done in
no,
two
no. I
years.
got I got decades. I got decades. I know that. I really, if you really want to know, I don't share this very publicly, not that it's a secret, but I want to give back to animals. My cause is the sentient animals of this planet, whether it's stray dogs in the streets in third world countries or what's happening to our oceans, the jungles, the trafficked animals in, South America. Like I'm pretty dialed in to that stuff, and I tithe, I give a percentage of my revenue to causes like that. But if I could really end my life, not as an entrepreneur, but more as a philanthropist or an activist, giving back to Mother Earth and these beautiful creatures that we as human beings think that we're in charge of. It's just so messed up. That's my cause is her. And so that's, if I can inspire women to remember who they are, help the planet, and ultimately live a really quiet life. I don't need, I really like being grounded and in nature, and be a really amazing role model for my nephews and my niece. Because I don't have actual children. I have furry children. That is by far and away my most coveted title, being Aunt Jessica. And if I can leave them with the most loving reflection of who their aunt was to them, I think my job in certain ways will be done here.
Oh, I think you're well on your way, my friend. That's good.
Thank you.
What's next for Jess?
What's next for Jess? Well, I'm hosting a retreat. I've got my next Claim Your Light retreat. Claim Your Light is my retreat program. It's a 5-day experience. It's business, branding, spirituality, all rolled into one.
So cool.
I've hosted them in Santa Fe, in Nashville, and this one is in Riviera Maya, Mexico.
Beautiful place.
At very spiritually activated parts of our planet, and at luxury properties, because I'm a bit bougie and I only roll 5-star. So I've got a few spots left in my retreat happening in January. It is, I do masterminds. I have a coaching certification program right now called the Feminine Frequency Business School. That's opening up again in the winter. But my retreat's next, and my retreats are my favorite thing I do because I love being in community in person. And these retreats feel like 5 minutes or 5 months, but they're 5 days of total transformation and sisterhood. And you walk out with 17 new best friends for real, like women that will be your ride or dies for life. I didn't even really realize I was creating that kind of community until the first one. I was like, oh, wow, this is what people actually came for, not me teaching how to build your personal brand, although I will teach you that. And so that is what's next for me. And building my house and rolling out a whole new exciting 2025 of offers and ways to serve my community and be in community. It's my favorite thing, is to be in community with other women.
Well, you are a master of so many things, and you are such a bright light to me and to the world. So keep on giving, keep on putting it out there. Your voice is so important. And just a reminder, in case you've forgotten, I am happy to send 2 very lucky people 2 books. So put your review out there. Guys, if you liked the show, if you like this show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, go leave those reviews, and go listen to the Spiritual Hustler. Buy Jess's book and follow her on Insta, connect with her on LinkedIn. She is amazing. I'm so lucky that I can call her my friend. And Jess, thank you. You've been an amazing, amazing guest.
I just love you. You are a light, and my people, like you just meet people and you see them across the room and you don't even have to say a word. And you're like, we get each other.
Mano y mano. I loved it. Loved it. Which we shouldn't say. I don't know how you say mano y mano for girl, but whatever. So
I got it.
You know what I mean. There you go. Guys, please go out, lead with heart, take care of each other, and have a great day. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together. Thanks for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or consider leaving a 5-star review and a great rating at Spotify or Apple. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great day.